Hey, welcome back to the shop. I'm going to do a little video today here on showing you some boxes that I built. They're right there. To have some hand tools, I had them just, on a shelf. And I needed to clear that shelf away because I got a 3D printer over here in the corner now, and right behind that is where that shelf was. So I figured I needed some ways to store that. So here's the boxes. There's 3 of them over here. And they're just hanging on French cleats. That's just a 45 cut on the back, piece of poplar. And they're just a square oak box, and they're really just glued together. But inside, there is these nice little dividers. And the dividers aren't interesting. They're just little square pieces of plywood, 3/8 plywood. But the grooves that they sit in, I don't know if you can see that, but the grooves that they sit in, there's a groove on the front and the back and the bottom. And so I needed those grooves to all be indexed from the edge of these pieces of wood. The end is inset here, so I could index off of one end of all of these. And I needed them, I figured they might as well all be the same width across. Well, I have a CNC machine, and that's actually a perfect thing for the CNC. So I wrote a little bit of G-code by hand for the CNC. I didn't do this in a CAD program. I just wrote the instructions to tell the CNC where to go and when to cut and when to move and when to stop. And I stopped it at the point at which I could simply restart it. So here, let's look at the G-code for the CNC machine and see how I wrote a little program to cut these repeated slots.
We recording? This is the first time trying this particular recording system. Welcome to the living room. Hey, I'm here inside the house, and we're looking at this G-code. This is the entire G-code program, and we're just running this in Notepad. G-code is just text that your controller sends information to the actual CNC machine, reads and then sends out there. Couple of things here. G1 basically just means go to this location. All the coordinates for X, Y, and Z are all in millimeters. So if you're used to imperial, then you're going to have to learn to do the translation in order to do this kind of thing. And it's not hard. 25.04, so millimeters to the inch. So you basically can say it's 25. So 1/4 of an inch is 6 1/4 millimeters. Your 6 is a pretty good approximation. 1/4 of a millimeter is pretty small. If you need to do more precision than that, then just get out a calculator and take your inches and multiply it by 25.04, and that's how many millimeters you need to have. In my case, what I'm doing here is I'm zeroing out the X, Y, and Z, and then I'm setting the Z. Here's your Z coordinate. This is Z5, so this is 5 millimeters, or a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch, above the material. Zero out the Z so that the bit is just touching the wood. 300 F and 300 is just the speed. That's millimeters per minute. I use 300 to 500 for a. I usually use 500 to do a non-cutting move. And then I use anywhere up to 400 to do a cutting move. I just typed 300 in here. These cuts are really short, so it doesn't matter a whole lot that you're, running as fast as you can. So X33, I zeroed out the edge of the bit against the edge of the wood, and then I'm coming over 33 millimeters. I'm coming over to Y minus 15. Now the Y0 on my machine, the 0 is where I have the far edge of the piece of wood, and then the negative number is away from me toward the wall. This is away from the piece of wood, and then a positive Y is going to cut into the wood, right? So M is a macro, and this M3 says turn on the cutter. Then we're going to go to Z minus 2, so we're going to make a 2 millimeter deep cut. I'm then going to go to Y minus 89 at 300 millimeters per minute, I'm going to go to X37, which is 4 millimeters over from X33 where we started, and then I'm going to go back to the Y minus 15, back to where we started. Okay, I'm then going to do that 3 times. X33 back to where we started, Z minus 4 down 2 more. All I'm doing here is lowering the Z and copy and pasting the rest of this. You don't, once you have the first F in there, you don't need the speeds anymore. It'll remember that speed all the way through. So this is the kind of the loop for Z minus 4, and this is Z minus 6. So I'm going 6 millimeters deep, or just about a quarter of an inch deep. I'm doing it 2 millimeters at a time, just to, yeah, that's a good, I know for cutting oak, which is what these were cut out of, I know for cutting oak that 2 millimeters at 300 is a nice clean speed. I maybe can go a little faster, but I don't need to. At the very end, I do 3 things. I go to Z5, which is 5 millimeters above where I finished at X37, Y minus 15. Notice that this is just approximately where we started, except that I'm 4 millimeters over in the X. I go to Z5, so I'm 5 millimeters off the top of the material, and I turn the motor off. That's the macro number 5, turns the motor off. I then go to X43, and I put a comment in here, semicolon starts a comment that says re-zero the X and restart the cycle if you want another groove. So all I have to do is hit the button that says X0, and then I can rerun this program. So the last thing here is macro 30. This is an end program, and it tells the controlling software to rewind this back to the beginning. So I can just hit 0 out the X and start the cycle again. So let's go back to the shop and see how that actually looks on the actual machine.
All right, so here we are in the CNC machine, and the first thing I want to do with this little piece of wood, we're just going to do some example cuts here. We're going to cut a couple of grooves. I do have to make sure I don't hit these hold downs. The first thing I need to do is, this is a nice flat line in the back here, so I need to make sure that the Y, when I zero this out against the back of this, that it's the same here as it is here. That way I know that I'm going to be perpendicular to this end, right? So I'm just using the jog commands on my machine are left, right, up, and down for, there's your X, Y, and Z is down, page up and page down, right? So I can just spin this by hand. I'm not going to turn the motor on, and I'm going to slowly move this, just jog it a little at a time until I can feel I'm right against that piece of wood, right? So I can feel it moves just a little bit, and I'm going to set my Y0 at that point. Bing. All right. So I think I got the Y backwards in my previous little bit to camera. This is actually, negative is toward me, positive is away from me. So that this actually starts on this edge, this little bit that's going to go 15 negative and then down to the minus 15. What'll that do for me? Let me think about this. So let's go up to Z, there's Z6. And if I come down here, there's your Y0. Alright, so I need to move I'll need to move my Y0 in order to make this work. But I'm going to send it right now, I'm going to send it a command to go to Y1, and the command I'm typing is that gcode, G1 space Y0. Alright, now it's going to do it really slowly. G1 Y0 F300. Alright, now I'm at 0 there, and if I come down here and move that, alright, so I can feel that I'm just touching that piece of wood. So what I want to do here is I want to come across to in the X coordinate, so that when I set, this one's still loose, this one's snug, and I can tap this back and forth until I get this exactly perpendicular across here. G1 space X. Let's go to I'm going to temporarily set my X0 here so I don't have to do any math. G1 X minus 100, and it'll go at that same rate. And you can see the bit turn a little bit. All right, it's a little bit snug here, so I'm going to need to tap that away from that bit. All right. 100 was a pretty good guess on that. I'm going to go back over a little bit. All right, so now I'm just barely touching on that. If you can hear that, I can just hear the bit hitting that wood. So I'm just going to tighten this hold down block, and that'll get me right where I want to be. All right, now I got this block held down nicely. Hang my wrench back up. All right, let's go away from this piece of wood, back up here. All right, now I'm going to set my X coordinate. All right, back down. Move this over. And I know this piece is cut 90 degrees. This is a good cut off the table saw, so I'm just going to come over until this just touches. That's good right there, and I'm going to hit my X0 right there. Okay. So now I'm going to bring up that G-code file. This is the pliers groove. Open that. Okay, and all it's going to do is make a slot cut. This is a 1/4 inch flat end mill. So I want this to start at X minus 15. So I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to go back to 18. I'm going to go back to, let's see, I'm going to go back to 20. G1, Y20. All right, and I'm going to set my 0 there. So then when I go to G1, Y minus 15, I'm going to be just a couple millimeters off the edge of that board. Move it down so we can see the gap there. So the gap is pretty small right here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to X33. I'm going to type in the first line from that program. G1 X33 Y minus 15 Z5. All right, now that's where my first groove is going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and run this cycle, and it's going to go back to 89 is going to be about that far back, and then it's going to go over a little bit and cut the rest of that cut and go down 2 millimeters and do it 2 more times. But when it finishes, it'll finish on the right hand edge of that, and then all I have to do is 0 out the X and hit cycle start again. So headphone warning, and we'll time lapse this. So there at the end you saw it go up to Z plus 5, turn the motor off, and then move over to the X43. And now I'm at X43, Y minus 15, and Z5. If I 0 that X out, now it's going to move over the width that I want for the distance between the slots where the tools are going to go. And we can do it again. So there's X0 on my software and cycle start. And it'll move over to 33 before it starts running the cycle again. Turn the motor off, go over to 43. Obviously I can't cut a third one here because I'm going to run into my support. But you can see how that pattern would repeat, and for the boxes I did I think 5 of those. No, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 4 or 5. So there were 5 slots that were cut in each of the boards. And then that way I could repeat based on starting on the same X location here every time on the edge of the board. I could repeat those, and when all three pieces of that box went together, then all the grooves all just came together just right. All right, so thanks for following along on this little CNC project and gluing together my little pliers toolboxes. These came out great, and they look good. They're just finished in oiled linseed oil, and like I said, they're just glued together. They don't even dowel or anything. This is all got long grain all the way around it, and it'll be just fine. This is the piece of wood here, right off of the CNC machine. See if I can keep that in focus. And you can see this came out really nice. Obviously you saw maybe a little bit of smoke if you were watching the CNC portion of that. And I'm using a 1/4 inch spiral downcut bit, and these edges are a little rough. So I think that that bit needs to be sharpened. But in general, came out really nice. And the actual ones, I just hit them on a big belt sander and cleaned it all up. So thanks for following along. Get inspired to do your own little project. If you have any CNC questions, feel free to hit me up. It's just a nice way to learn to do those little kinds of projects without having to get a CAD program out to draw a bunch of slots that you're just gonna, have one slot and it repeats. I did end up making the derivatives of each of those, one for the front, one for the back, because I needed to cut them from the one side I cut them from the other side. And then in the bottom, they actually stop and start, so they had to like cut down and cut up and come over and do those kinds of things. So, but it's not really hardly any different between the three. They're just very minor differences. But it meant that I could keep the same X kind of increment as I went across, and that way they all lined up. And when I put the pieces of plywood in the boxes. All right, thanks a lot. Any questions? Let me know. Bye.